In Psalm 19, 1 through 4, the heavens are telling the glory of God, and the expanse of the universe shows the work of his hands. Day after day they utter speech, and night after night they show knowledge. There is no speech or language where their voice is not heard. Their line has gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. So this is an important verse in Scripture that tells us that it's actually talking about there is such thing as there's in Bible doctrine, there's called special revelation, and then there's general revelation. General revelation is the revelation of God that we see in the stars of the heaven. So we can look at the stars, and the galaxies. If you've ever been out in the country, away from the city, and you get a good dark night away from the city lights and everything, and there's no moon, it's incredible when you look up at the galaxies and the Milky Way spreading across the sky. You know, when looking at that there must be a creator in your heart. You know that that's true. You can't understand why, but you know that it's true. And so that's general revelation. The heavens are telling the glory of God. It tells us about him, that we have a creator. It doesn't tell us anything else. It doesn't tell us about Jesus, but it does tell us that we have a creator. And a special revelation is the scriptures, the Holy Scriptures, the traditional canon of the Bible. That's special revelation from God, that God gave his word in order to reveal things that we could not know from general revelation, such as that we're sinners. Actually, we always know that we're sinners, but especially that Jesus came to die on the cross, came to earth and died and lived a perfect life, died on the cross, rose again the third day, and returned to heaven, and he's coming again to judge the universe, the world in particular. And so lots of things in the Bible that we could never know apart from the scriptures. And one of the things that we found out from the scriptures, that I found out in 2004, that was that the Bible was arranged according to the golden ratio design of UCC-OO. And it took me about 15, 16 years from that point, 17 years roughly. This is 2021, so about 17 years to work out all of the issues and finally get the Bible to the point that it's at this moment, which is extremely advanced. And this video, the purpose of this video is to show that the golden ratio design of UCC-OO not only is, as it says in part one, that I showed in part one, that the human body has the golden ratio design, but in this video I'm going to show that the solar system and even the galaxies themselves, the types of galaxies, there's 5 of them, has the same golden ratio design of UCC-OO. And so you're not going to find this stuff in any science class. You're not even going to find it in any churches, because this information is so new that no one's talking about it yet except me. I'm the only one. This is my ministry. This is what God called me to do. And so I'm trying to tell the world what God has shown me. And and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's very, very clear. The proof is there. Anyone can look at it and understand that it's correct and it's true. So I encourage you to pay attention and listen as we go through this study. My name is Max Day. I'm the president of Jehovah Has Spoken Publishing Ministries. I'm a lead system engineer with over 11 years of experience in engineering. I'm the editor and translator of the Kingdom Study Bible in English and Spanish. I have bachelor's and associate's degrees in computer science, also master's and bachelor's degrees in Bible and theology. The study is going to pick up where the first study left off, and I'm not going to repeat all the introduction information in order to get right to the point. So uh, if you skip to this one, you're going to miss the why and how, and it's not going to make any sense. So please go back and watch the original, and better yet, even watch the Introduction to Golden Ratio Design of the Bible Concepts video. That will really get you the right kind of foundation. So very briefly, notice that this is the volume 1, the internal contents of volume 1 of the Bible in the Golden Ratio Design. And we see that each book has 2 parts divided into with 5 chapters in each part, and they all have the Golden Ratio Design. So the Golden Ratio Design of UCC-OO is found on every level of the Bible, except for certain more like the parts. That's only has 2 CCs, 2 complementary. But generally speaking, the Golden Ratio Design is found in every part of the Bible on pretty much every level, and it's part and parcel of the Bible. God put it there in the beginning. We only found it recently. I only found it recently in 2004. So I've been spending the last almost 20 years now, or at least since 2004. That would be 16 years, I guess, since I've been trying to explain the Golden Ratio Design of the Bible. And I'm going to take this into a completely different direction in this video to explain something that's quite shocking, really. We'll get right to it. Quickly go over the original, the previous video. You can see both hands has the Golden Ratio Design in the fingers. One unique in the middle, 2 complementary and 2 opposites. So in nature, the Golden Ratio Design can be different order. It doesn't have to be UCC-OO. It can be sometimes, but it's pretty rare actually. But in the Bible, it's always in order. It's either OO by itself, or CC by itself, or UCC, or UCC-OO, or the reverse, OOCCU. It's one of those. And on the highest level in the volumes, it's UCC-OO, and then the Psalms is CCU or UCC to remember. So the Golden Ratio Design is found in the Bible. It's found in the human body. And I'm just going to keep right on going because I'm not going to repeat all this information. Now, this is really pretty incredible. It's something that you won't find in any science class, but I found something very interesting when I was looking at, and I'm sure that the Lord led me to this. Now that you're familiar with the UCC-OO design, the Golden Ratio Design, that we find, look at our solar system, we find something incredibly interesting. So we have an inner asteroid belt, and inside the inner asteroid belt we have Mars, Earth, Venus, Mercury, and the Sun, 5. And between the asteroid belt and the second asteroid belt on the outside of the solar system, we also have 5 planetary objects, or at least planetoids. I believe Pluto is a planet, but it doesn't matter. It's a planetary object. The Sun's not a planet either. So in both groups, you have one object that's not a that's either not a planet or it's something different. So the point is we have two groups of 5. Quite interesting. Let's look at the first group, the inner planets. Now Mars, Earth, and Venus, all 3 of these have atmospheres, whereas Mercury and the Sun do not. So Earth and Venus are actually almost twins when it comes to their size, and they both have a thick atmosphere. However, Earth is the only one that's habitable, and Venus, of course, is I think on the surface the temperature is hot enough to melt lead. So it's pretty, unless aliens living there have some kind of way to protect themselves from the heat, there's probably no life there either. So these two here complement each other, whereas Mars is unique because it's smaller than both Earth and Venus, and it has a thin atmosphere, thinner, and it could support life technically, depending on where you are. So anyway, you have three planets here in the inner solar system, all 3 with atmospheres, but one here is unique and the other 2 are complementary. They're like 2 sides of the same coin. Whereas Mercury and the Sun are opposites because obviously, it seems pretty obvious, isn't it? The Sun is vast, huge. This picture doesn't even do justice to the real true size of the Sun. It's enormous. And Mercury is tiny, doesn't have an atmosphere. So there you have UCC-OO. There you have the UCC-OO golden ratio design in order, which is kind of unusual because in the other examples that I found, it's not usually that way. And so we're going to go to the next slide. We have the same image. We're going to look at the outer planets now. Pluto, whether you consider it a planet or not, doesn't matter for this discussion. We'll assume that it's not a real planet, just for the fun of it. Let's read this over here. Pluto not considered to be a real planet due to size, but orbits an elliptical path to the solar plane, passing from within the Kuiper belt to within the orbit of Neptune. The other dwarf planets in the Kuiper belt do not come within the orbit of Neptune. Ceres remains within the asteroid belt. So Pluto is unique among the dwarf planets in this respect. It is also unique compared to any of the gas or ice giants among the outer planets. And it also has a companion moon, Charon, I believe, Charon. So anyway, it's unique, very, very unique. Its orbit is unique. It's unique in almost every way compared to these other planets here in the outer solar system. These are all gas, what they call gas giants, much bigger, of course, than the inner planets. And the interesting thing is that Jupiter and Saturn complement each other because they're both massive gas giant planets. I got this off Wikipedia. Somewhat larger in diameter than Saturn, mostly hydrogen and helium. Almost exactly the same. They both have rings, although Jupiter is not as visible. Many moons, but they're mostly composed of hydrogen and helium. So they're very similar. Of course, you can see the moons are the rings are very visible on Saturn and not really visible, at least without a good telescope, on Jupiter. So these complement each other. But when we look at these two here, the Neptune and Uranus, we find that some interesting facts. Uranus is called an ice giant. This comes directly off of Wikipedia. Wikipedia can be a good source of information. I've not found anything to contradict it, so we'll go with this. Called an ice giant because its temperature is much colder than Jupiter, Saturn, or even Neptune. It radiates hardly any excess energy into space, unlike Neptune, which radiates 2.6 times as much energy as it receives from the sun. So these two here, Neptune is cold. Uranus is cold, excuse me. Neptune radiates energy. Uranus radiates almost none. And Uranus is also different because its axis of rotation is almost parallel with the plane of the solar system with an axial tilt of 97.977 degrees. This gives it seasonal changes completely unlike those of the other planets. Near the solstice, one pole faces the sun continuously and the other faces away. Only a narrow strip around the equator experiences a rapid day-night cycle, but with the sun lower over the horizon. At the other side of Uranus's orbit, the orientation of the poles toward the sun is reversed. So Uranus's poles are horizontal, whereas Earth is vertical towards the plane of the solar system, and all the other planets are their spin, their poles are pointing, let's say, north, if you will. But Uranus is pointing flat toward it's pointing flat, okay, this way. Look at my pointer. And so when it's on the other side, then this other pole is then pointing at the sun. So it's really a weird, strange planet. And Uranus is the only planet in the solar system that has such a radical orientation. Uranus is also a component of methane and ammonia in addition to hydrogen and helium, so it is quite different from Jupiter and Saturn. Now Neptune is called an ice giant for the same reasons, but as Uranus, but in contrast with Uranus, it radiates more than twice as much energy in space as it receives from the sun. Also, the rotational orientation of Neptune is similar to the other planets, in stark contrast to Uranus. So there you have two complementary, two opposites, one unique. So the golden ratio design of UCC-OO is a little bit scrambled there. But again, you have 5, and you can find these very same characteristics of the golden ratio with these 5 bodies. And remember from the Bible, you have each book has 2 parts, just like the solar system, and 5 chapters in each part. So you have the same golden ratio design of the Bible books in the solar system. That's pretty amazing if you think about it. Now we're always discovering new things about the solar system, right? So I fully expect that they're going to find, they apparently have found, a giant planet on the outside, Planet X or something like that. But it's not part of this, at least if it's a part of the solar system, it's way outside. So those we're not concerned about. And apparently, from what I've heard about it, it may not even be real for all I know. But it might be some kind of a traveler between solar systems or something like that. We really don't know. There's so much bad information. I'm reluctant to even comment on it. So what we're concerned about here is the way the golden ratio design is manifested in the solar system. Pretty amazing. This is also something you'll never see in any public college or school or of any type. Not even in Christian colleges, because they're not even aware of it yet. This is something I only discovered, I think it must have been 10, 12 years ago. I don't remember exactly when it was, but it was probably about 12 or 13 years ago. And I was pretty shocked. And there's lots more of these. So here's one example in the solar system. I want to go through one more example. And this is something that is unusual. It's not something that I found recently. Actually, no, I take that back. I did find it recently, relatively recently. And it was something I didn't understand. I knew it had to be there. And I began looking at these pictures on the internet, and you find that they will say that there's 6 types of galaxies, basically. That peculiar, here's a definition from the internet. Peculiar is a galaxy of unusual shape. So let me go back to the types here. You got peculiar, show my pointer. peculiar, you have elliptical, lenticular, spiral, irregular, and barred spiral. Okay, so if there's 6, let's look at the golden ratio design and see if we can figure out what it is. So peculiar is a galaxy of unusual size, shape, or composition. Okay, in other words, it could be just about anything. An irregular galaxy is a galaxy that does not have a distinct regular shape, unlike a spiral or elliptical galaxies. Okay. Irregular or unusual. Sounds a lot like the same thing to me. So there's not, if you have irregular and unusual, that's like saying the same thing. I'm not sure why they say that they're different somehow, because you could put them easily in the same basket without any trouble at all. So in my opinion, this is my own opinion. If you've seen the previous videos, it's the golden ratio design. Is in this video I show the golden ratio design of the solar system. I believe 100% that it has to exist on this level as well, because God, the God of the Bible, created all things. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And if he's gone to that much trouble to put the golden ratio design of UCC-OO on every page of the Bible, and even on our own body, as I showed in the previous video, and in the solar system, why wouldn't he do this? So I think we can assume that the golden ratio design of UCC-OO is found in the universe in this way. So there's billions of galaxies out there, and the astronomers have gone out there and have come up with this system of 6 different galaxies. In my opinion, the peculiar and the irregular galaxy is really the same. Here's peculiar, an example, and here's an irregular. Okay. In other words, it's very similar. They're the same thing as far as I'm concerned. And in my opinion, I think the evidence is strong that they are the same. Secondly, we look at the spiral and the barred spiral. So what's in common? They're both spirals, right? So these are very similar. They're like 2 sides of the same coin. And this is something that it took me a while to come to this conclusion, because first I thought maybe it was elliptical and lenticular were the two complementary, but when I thought about it some more, they're both spirals, and the only difference is one has a bar, which is Milky Way, as I understand it, is like that, and the spiral, it's like 2 sides of the same coin. They're very similar. And that's one characteristic of the 2 complementary, is they're like 2 sides of the same coin. That's one thing we know from the Bible and from the golden ratio. So that leaves the elliptical and the lenticular. If you can see here, the elliptical is like it's very spread out. It's very full looking. It probably does have a hot center, but it's hard to see it because it's such a cloud. It's just a gigantic cloud of stars, but it's not really very super thick either. But it is full. It's full looking. Whereas this over here, the lenticular, it has a small hot center, relatively small by galactic standards, but you can see it looks very empty, even though you can see the galaxy itself is large. It looks very thin, just like a ghost. So I would say that these two here are the opposites. So the irregular and peculiar are the unique. Barred spiral and spiral are the 2 complementary, and the elliptical and lenticular are the 2 opposites. So in my opinion, it's my opinion that this is the golden ratio design. So it's pretty amazing. But since I've been studying this, I'm not surprised. I mean, I knew it was there, and I'll bet that there are far more examples of the golden ratio design on the galactic and universal level. I just haven't found them yet, but I'll bet there's more. There's a huge array of different heavenly objects out there, and I'm going to do more study, and we'll just see what we come up with. But at least for now, this is a beginning. This video will continue in part 3 of this series.